This is Crow Country. It's an eerie survival horror game set in an abandoned bird-themed amusement park. Or at least it seems abandoned here. However, as you just saw, you are not alone. Something lurks here with you among the shutdown rides and animatronics. In this game, you play as Mara Forrest, and you have come looking to find out what went wrong with this park, as you grapple with the secrets behind its gates and below the surface, looking for the man who once ran it all. I recently played through this game, and even though I'm really not a horror person at all, I wanted to give it a shot after playing the demo for it last year. I'm really happy to say that I found that it struck a great balance between exploration, mystery, and light but manageable frights. I think this is the perfect game to play this Halloween or on a rainy day, and I'm just going to try and explain why. If this looks interesting to you, I'm going to talk more about it. So let's talk about Crow Country. The year is 1999, and you are at the gates of the abandoned theme park, Crow Country, playing as Mara Forrest. You're here to investigate the disappearance of the park's owner, Edward Crow, and along the way, you're trying to find out why the park closed down. You will discover that even though this park is abandoned, it isn't empty. Going into the game, you are thrown into an immediately unsettling environment as you grapple with a place that should be full of people and noise, but it's completely empty instead. However, you soon find that you are not alone as you see a man hurt in one of the first main paths as you enter into the park. After you rescue him and bring him back to your car, you learn that he is an amateur journalist / photographer / person that broke into a park who was investigating and ended up being attacked by something. He caught a picture of the attacker, and it only makes me want to leave the park more. After seeing the photo, and now that he is safe, you must go back in knowing that the park is anything but safe. I don't want to go into too much detail because I think the story of this game is so integral to the experience, but I will say that if you like a good mystery, a small setting, and light cosmic or Lovecraftian horror, then you will enjoy Crow Country. If you care about spoilers, go here in the video now to avoid all that. If you don't care, I'm just going to go over a couple more story highlights and kind of ramble for a minute about stuff that I think made this game shine in a genre filled with amazing games. Alright, so to give a light synopsis, this park in Crow Country, I think it takes place in Atlanta, Georgia, was super popular. It was run by this guy named Edward Crow, who's a strange guy, but he's pretty rich, and he makes an amusement park. And then like a year or two into the park's founding, I'm not really sure, it doesn't really matter, there is an incident. A girl is in the back of the park where she shouldn't be. She has wandered back there, and she sees a person in like a cell, and yeah, the person like touches her leg or something, or her arm, and she is immediately hurt. Like, it's not good at all. It's not normal, really bad. The park closes down. This isn't a normal person. It's like some sort of thing, like some sort of cosmic entity, and it's really messed up and weird, and no one can really explain it. So she goes to the hospital. It's this whole big deal. There's a legal battle between her family, and Edward Crow, and it causes the park to shut down. This thing was there because Edward Crow had a business partner, and they discovered gold in the park, but not regular gold. It was coming from like these vines, and they were tapping the vines to make gold. And they had a whole situation where they were like almost laundering the gold by sending it down to South America and then bringing it back up, saying they had a gold mine. And as they took more gold, more of these things started to appear. And that's what infected this girl with this disease. And these things are called visitors, and they've just taken over the park. And it's your job to figure this out and find Edward Crow and figure out what he's doing and why he's like become a recluse and he's not in the park anymore. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the whole game. It's a super interesting mystery, just seeing how all these things connect, and it answers a lot of your questions, and you come out thinking you know the base thing of how things work in the game, but there's still a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, and you don't get the full picture, which I think is an awesome way to handle things, because you come in with all these questions and they're answered, but you almost leave with more questions about what's really going on, because not even all the characters know what's going on. All the NPCs all have some sort of thing they're trying to figure out, or person they're trying to find, and you help them do these things, but they come away with more questions too, and everyone is left unsatisfied in a way that, you know, you're never going to answer. And I thought it was really good. I thought it was great how they handled it. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm being a little bit vague on purpose because I do think the story is great. I've given like the main beats, but it is a really good story that I think did great in the small setting and sort of wrapped it all up really good. So I don't know if I explained that well, but that is my short synopsis of what the game is about. There's a lot more to it than what I said, but that's like the main points of why you're there and what you're doing. So yeah, I'm just gonna move on. Spoilers are over. I guess that's like the main big things. So yeah, beyond all the individual elements, the story of Crow Country unraveled at a perfect pace. You are constantly discovering new things about the world while you come up with new theories about what might be going on in this abandoned theme park. And as everything starts to come together, you finally realize why you were here in the first place. It makes for a great ride and what I thought was an amazing conclusion. A lot of your questions are answered, like I mentioned before, but you leave the game with a good amount of new questions. It could be frustrating to have that many questions if you haven't struck such a perfect balance, but I think the game mostly does. I think it was made in a way that it benefits the Lovecraftian element of the game and makes it work even better. There are just things you will never really know with horror like that, and I think it makes it super approachable and very interesting if you want to dig in deeper than what the game is showing and make your own theories. I thought that was awesome. Another thing that complements that this game has going for it is the overall vibe and art style. It's clear that this game is inspired game mechanic wise by games like early Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and the visuals certainly follow in that same vein. There's this overall grittiness applied over everything that I think did a lot of work to give the game an old PS1 feel without making the game feel too dated. Like, it still plays like a modern game for the most part. Paired with a low poly style with all these graphics and effects, it does a great job of making everything recognizable while still letting your imagination take over a little bit. I think combining all those elements I've talked about goes a long way to make this game be scarier and more uncomfortable, because this might not literally be the scariest thing you've ever seen, but when you combine it all together with the environment and the fog and the amazing sound effects and the overall story, I think your mind will fill in the gaps. I think the low poly style genuinely makes the game scary while also making it a little more approachable for someone like me who has a hard time playing horror. This game really just balances everything so well in terms of story and overall art direction. You are constantly re-entering old areas with new information and skills, and it makes a relatively small game feel limitless. Everything in this game loops back in on itself so well and feels so contained that you almost never notice if you are on the edge of the map, especially when you open up, but all of that can mean very little if the game ends up playing poorly. Luckily, Crow Country plays generally well in my opinion after I got used to the controls. For a game with an older aesthetic, Crow Country plays pretty smoothly. The movement around the park and general navigation is very smooth, and I found myself getting stuck on environmental obstacles pretty rarely, even if it did happen a couple times. It didn't always feel fair, but it happened so infrequently that it didn't really seem like an issue to me. I could see little movement and combat hiccups being slightly annoying if you're trying to get all the achievements, which there are a few of that are based on not getting hurt and time and stuff like that. But for me, it wasn't really an issue because I was just going through one playthrough. In general, you have enough control that you can choose how much you want to interact with enemies, be that completely ignoring them or fighting each one, so that does a lot to help make any issues more forgivable, because there is a lot of leeway with how much you have to fight these things. But speaking of combat, it was pretty much the same story. I played this game on PS5, so aiming was occasionally way more difficult than I thought it should be, but I would have expected that, and I kind of chalked it up more to the platform than the game. However, I did play the demo on PC, and for what it's worth, I immediately felt like I would have had an easier time there, especially with aiming. Again, not a deal breaker. There is shooting in this game and combat in that way, but it's not like the main focus. And as long as you remain calm, the difficulty is never really an issue anyway. If anything, it only adds to the tension and the horror experience. If you want to look on the bright side, I don't want to make excuses for the game, but it's not like a huge deal breaker, in my opinion. Ammo and healing items are also pretty abundant as well, so if you're gonna misfire or miss in general, it's not like the end of the world. Beyond combat, there are also the puzzles. They are pretty interesting, pretty simple in my opinion. I would say there's a couple for every section of the game. Pretty simple. I had to look up guides for a lot of them. I'm not generally good at puzzles, but once I read the tutorials and the guides, every time the solution was something where I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. It's always something that there was environmental cues, there was things around that showed what to do. I just wasn't paying attention. So I would say in general, even though I'm not a puzzle guy and I wasn't good at these puzzles either, I do think the puzzles were good. The solutions always made sense, and if you're willing to explore, the map encourages you to sort of go to places where you will have items that you'll need for the next puzzle. So it all tied together really nicely, again, like I had said before. Overall, I had a great time, and it doesn't overstay its welcome at all as well, which is great. Yeah, everything lends to this game just being a very tight, smooth experience with minimal hiccups, which is awesome. So, in conclusion, to end the short review, this game isn't completely perfect, but for a small, self-contained experience, it comes pretty close. It took me roughly like 2 play sessions to play this game. I say you could probably finish it in one very long one, beat it in a day, but there are also a good amount of secrets and challenges to come back to if you want all those trophies. For its price on Steam or free with a PlayStation Plus membership, I think it is well worth the purchase. Just give it a shot. If you're into horror or you want to give it something like this a shot, I definitely recommend it, especially on Halloween this week. If you got nothing else going on or afterwards, definitely give this game a shot. If you found this review/recommendation helpful, I would love if you subscribed or dropped a like down below. It really helps a lot. Really helps me be able to make more stuff like this, hopefully better as well. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so consider joining this little community. And please let me know what games you would like me to cover next time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.